procedure. What we then did, I want to come back a short moment, what happened there from the content, what was in the treaty there all the time. All the time since the beginning, there were copyright rights for broadcasters. This means that there would have been set a new layer of rights on top of copyrights. What it did, the draft did since the beginning, was a regulation of internet transmissions. So to say, you would have not been allowed to copy a TV show, put it on a peer-to-peer network or something like that. Everything like this would be regulated by this treaty, would have been regulated by the treaty. And then in 2002, the US delegation was introducing webcasting also. Webcasting is a little bit different from only regulating internet transmissions, while you in this point regulate how normal TV shows, for example, which are going by satellite, cable, or terrestrial frequencies, I don't know, have to be dealt with in the internet. This would have been introduced in a whole bunch of new corporations, webcasters, because normally in this part of the treaty, only traditional broadcasters were beneficiaries of this treaty, and now there was the idea to put webcasters also in, which was a very critical thing, because how do you decide who's a webcaster? Everyone is a webcaster. If you take some video, take some pictures, put them together, put them online, are you a webcaster now? Do you have now copyright rights going on the copyright of the picture you've taken of a picture of a painter or something like that? So in 2002, webcasting was also introduced, but was going out in 2006. And in between there was much happened, which is the next foil. Till 2002, we got only broadcasters and rights holders organizations there in Geneva. You have to know that if you are not a governmental but a non-governmental organization, you can attend at WIPO as an observer. Non-governmental organization is a word which is normally used between people as a synonym to civil society organizations, but it is wrong. NGOs in the UN means only a non-governmental organization, so not a government. So also broadcasters, organizations and rights holders were there at the time from 1998 till 2002. But when webcasting was introduced, first steps to build a growing opposition were taken. Librarians were observing now the treaty negotiation. The first civil society organizations, the Civil Society Coalition, and Yahoo were starting to observe. And in 2006 there was a big and broad opposition from different groups, including the librarians, civil society organizations and digital rights groups. Afterwards I will tell you a little bit on what groups these are and what they are headed against. The tech industry was involved, intermediaries were involved, which means telecommunications corporations, and developing countries' interest groups. And so I think when webcasting was introduced, this was a main start up for more NGOs to come in, more civil society NGOs to come in and watch this treaty and look what's happening there on the international level. So what were these groups from civil society? The first ones, the International Federation of Library Associations and Institutions, is a very conservative one, but was there since the beginning, looking at these treaty negotiations, and the Electronic Information for Libraries afterwards came over. They all were against the new sets of rights which would have been put on the top of copyright rights, and which they would have to clear if they want to archive, for example, books or something like that. And because of this archive function of librarians, they were also against this technological protection measures. Then there was another groups like Consumer Project on Technology, now named Knowledge Ecology International, and Electronic Frontier Foundation, and as well as IP Justice, consumer groups, digital rights groups which were very active against the regulation of the internet and against the inclusion of TPMs in this draft treaty. The next group were developing countries organizations, like, for example, Third World Network, the South Center, which were always, all the time in those negotiations, the developed countries try to tell the developing countries delegates how much they will benefit from these things and how good this would be for the broadcasting industry and how successful they could be with this treaty. And those guys of these organizations did a really great job to show them, no, come on, it's not your broadcasting industry which will gain the most of this treaty, it's the US and Europeans broadcasting industry. They are standing there and want to come over to you and grab more money for you, so be afraid of this. And they made a lot of studies to inform members on these procedures. Then there was another group of NGOs, copyrights holders, so all the people who are active or going for the interests of copyrights holders, like the International Federation of the Phonographic Industry, normally not such a nice NGO, but they also were against this treaty because it would have meant to give a new set of rights worldwide to another group of beneficiaries, and this perhaps could mean less rights for them or not such a good bargaining position with the broadcasters in the future. So this was why they were against it. They are a little bit different. The International Music Managers Forum was very active together with the civil society coalitions, while the IFPI was all the time saying, yeah, we don't want this treaty really, but we like intellectual property rights, so if it comes, it's okay, but normally we don't like such super strong rights. So they took not such a strong position against this treaty because of thinking perhaps of the next copyright treaty or something like that. Next thing, tech corporations were starting coming over since 2002, 2003, like Intel, Sony, which were against the coming technological mandate, which were coming by the TPM provisions, and against the regulation of internet transmissions, because on the one hand, they wanted to buy tools, gadgets, something like that, which you can use to make new uses of broadcasts over the internet, something like that. And they don't want any regulation of the internet because they think there are good business opportunities, and these business opportunities are best served, are best used if everything is free, so you can do and evolve what you do and don't have something like a broadcast flag or a technological mandate. Next group of oppositions was the intermediaries, like Verizon and AT&T, which had two problems with this treaty. First thing, that it was not clear that there would be no second liability, which means that, for example, Verizon at some point could be made liable for the infringement by its users. So if someone at home takes a broadcast and makes a non-rightful use of it, and does this by using a Verizon telecommunication line, perhaps Verizon could be liable, so they were very active to see that this will not happen. And they also were against the regulation of internet transmissions. And so this front, back. This front was getting broader and broader from 2002 till 2006. In 2004, I think there was a joint statement, or 2005, a joint statement where more than 40 organizations were signing. And this is what we did on the one hand, makes joint statements and meetings and before to influence the US government's position on this. And we also try to keep in touch between to share information and to coordinate activities in the US And this is something I want to talk to you now, how you change the US government position. If you look, you can be active in 2 ways. The first thing is go to WIPO, go to the sessions, look what's happening there, and report it to the outside, write a newspaper, something like that, talk to delegates. So this is what you do on the international level, and on the and in between the sessions, of course, you can try to influence the US delegation's position by itself, by lobbying at home. So, for example, we built up a very loose network between all the civil society groups, industry and rights holders groups, all these different actors which were together. Got a very, very loose network, and in the United States, different parts of this group, sometimes together, sometimes only one, were starting to write to the House of Representatives or to the Senate to make them beware of what's happening there and what the US government was doing at that point. Also, there's a little tool how you can. It's very valuable to talk to the US delegation to see how do they interpret those things, how do they think about some things, why do they make such a proposal in the last session or something like that. So it's very good to talk to them. And in the United States, there's the possibility, if there is an international treaty negotiation, you can go over and say to the delegation, hello, we want to have a clarification of your position. And those meetings have taken place, I think, 2006 and 2007, 4 or 5 times at the US Copyright Office and the US Patent and Trademark Office, which combined were building the delegation of the United States at the negotiations. And what we also did was simply to keep the communication alive in between. So everyone, you can imagine if you got different groups like EFF and Intel in one telephone call, they have very different channels and hear different things from different people. So it's very valuable only to have a phone call every month, something like that, to give information to all the others and make sure that every channel you can use is used. So, and this, all in all, it was very, very successful. It's very seldom that an international treaty is being killed. There was very, very hard work from many of these groups over years, several years, since 2000. Many people were there since 2002, working there for 5 years on the same treaty, going a step forward, backward, and at the end we got in this June it's a very great outcome that that no diplomatic conference will be convened. And for me it was very great to participate in this negotiation process, because first I could learn, and it was a very successful outcome. So I think you can't start better on the international level to lobby. But what I missed all the time was that I was most of the time the only European. So I was working for this American organization, and sometimes I felt like the European spy, because I was only surrounded by people from organizations from the United States, and sometimes they ask me, hey, where are the Europeans? Where are the Europeans? I say, oh, come on, I don't know. I'm here, but I'm working for this American one. And there was there is something in the background, but I think we should start over and do more here in Europe. And this is not only because they say, oh, we miss you, but because the European Union is one of the strongest proponents of intellectual property rights on the international level. The European Union was one of the hardliners all the years while the negotiation was taking place. For 9 years, they were the ones who were saying we need copyright rights for broadcasters, because we already have them in Europe, and we don't. So we need an update of this Rome Convention, where it comes from, and we will not go a step back, something like that. And this is not a and this is a real aim of the European Union to get more intellectual property rights, because in 2001 they got the Lisbon agenda, and if you look there, it's a big agenda which is saying, oh, we are moving forward to the information society, we have to